Chapter 214, Battle Between Masters. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. In that case, the next step is to learn Brother C's master tricks. Jang Tangai spread his arms wide open. When the genuine chi beneath his legs extended, he steadily flew high up. He descended into the lake 20 feet away and walked until he reached the center of the lake. Phew! The water in the lake surged outward and transformed into ice. Shortly after, a massive, crystal-clear iceberg appeared under Jang Tangai's feet and floated on the surface of the lake. Jang Tangai stood at the highest point of the iceberg. He poured the genuine chi out of his body, blending himself into both the iceberg and the massive lake. There was not one organism in his body that he could utilize with the colossal force of the lake to suppress his opponent who had entered the lake. The real battle of a master involved not only the strength and power of the master himself, but also the use of the environment as well as the mastery of one's mind. Chang Kiki's heart was thumping in his chest. He looked at Jang Tangai, who was standing peacefully in the center of the lake. He felt scared, as if he was looking at a statue in a temple. Under such circumstances, Jang Tangai had already destroyed Chang Kiki's confidence without even fighting. His elder brother a match for Jang Tangai? Chang Kiki suspected the true ability of his older brother for the very first time. He looked toward Seek Singkong and wondered how he was going to withstand the power of Jang Tangai. Ha ha, you are indeed the genius Jang Tangai that a lot of people admire. Seek Singkong opened the lid of the burning wine and drank it. Then, he stepped forward on the ground. Hard, bam. The ground underneath Seek Singkong's legs shattered and turned into a string of cracks. They spread toward the massive lake 20 feet away. PHHF. The crack in the ground was 2 meters wide and 30 feet long, and it linked the lake together. Immediately, the water of the lake surged upward. Not only did the crack tear up the ground, but it also destroyed the momentum of the lake that Jang Tangai had solidified. Bang! Seek Singkong's body collapsed as if drawing a bow. His extremities were shivering and a loud sound broke out from his body. It was as if his body had transformed into an arrow that was shot from a bow. He flew toward the lake and directly attacked Jang Tangai. The high-pitched sound he let out just now vibrated, causing pain in Chang Kiki's and Liu Cheng's ears. They became dizzy and were mentally stunned. Thousand Hands of the War God. Jang Tangai stretched out his hand, activated his genuine chi, and turned his arm into an illusory image. It was at least 30 meters long and formed countless hand shadows, striking fists, and pointed fingers of force. Seek Singkong laughed out loud and broke through the thousand-hand shadow straight away. He punched out a fist, which had a power that was as strong as a dragon lion. He groaned, causing the lake to have turbulent waves. Chang Kiki stood at the shore, trying his best to open his eyes. However, his eyes were in such great pain that he could not clearly see any trace of Seek Singkong or Jang Tangai. Boom! The iceberg shattered. The two human shadows separated at once, like two geese flying in the wind, falling gently in different directions of the lake. Bravo! You were able to break my thousand handprints with just one move. Jang Tangai stood above the water surface, where there was another iceberg solidified beneath his legs. Fight! Seek Singkong struck out his second fist and the waves of water in the entire lake had completely rolled up and dashed out again. At first, there were only 2 shadows on the lake. Shortly after, 4 shadows appeared. In the end, countless shadows came into sight as if thousands of troops of soldiers and horses were brutally fighting on the lake. Chang Kiki and Liu Cheng had long been shaken and were incapable of handling such a powerful force. They have both cultivated to the completion of the Earth realm, so why is there such a big difference between them? Liu Cheng was agitated and grasped his fingers tightly. He could have never imagined that they were capable of practicing their power to this height in the heaven realm. The 2 human shadows on the lake separated again. Up until this moment, Chang Kiki and Liu Cheng, who were standing by the lake, realized that under the influence of the genuine chi of the 2 masters, the 100-meter-long lake had completely frozen and transformed into an ice lake. 6 movements have been completed. The next move will be the move that decides victory. Seek Singkong's hair was disheveled. His momentum was magnificent and every inch of his skin had turned golden. He took a deep breath, and the spiritual chi that had spread 1 kilometer around him was completely and instantly absorbed and inhaled into his body. Jiang Tangai could feel the powerful momentum displayed on Seek Singkong's body. Then, he drew a circle with his bare hands where 6 light beams emitted from his body. At the same time, it transformed into 6 types of spiritual stage martial techniques, including domination, strange, skillful, and extermination. Boom! 2 streams of power crashed into each other that shattered the massive lake, which had been frozen to an ice lake, into fragments of ice crystals. The entire ground lightly shook along with the ice lake. Jiang Tangai flew out and fell hard onto the lake. His body slid dozens of meters backward, which left a long track mark on the ground as his lower body had completely sunken into the soil. PFFT. A mouthful of blood was spat out from Jiang Tangai's mouth. He looked a bit bleak. This was the first loss that he had ever encountered since he was small. He stared at Seek Singkong in the distance and said with difficulty, I lost. Seek Singkong laughed and said, ha ha. I've consolidated in the completion of the Earth realm for 3 years while you have just freshly broken through to this realm. If I haven't elevated to the Heaven realm in 3 years, then I might not be a match for you at that time. Junior fellow apprentice Chang, let's go. Looking at the dilapidated lake, Chang Kiki was astonished. Is it possible for a human to explode out such power? Come on, let's move. Seek Singkong tapped on Chang Kiki's shoulders lightly and signaled for him to go. They walked shoulder to shoulder and very quickly, disappearing in the frost and snow. Chang Kiki gazed at Seek Singkong with admiration and said, Senior brother, you're absolutely amazing. With your ability, I guess you are able to kill martial arts legends in the Heaven realm with your bare hands. The so-called top genius was vulnerable and has been knocked off by you. PFFT. Suddenly, Seek Singkong spat out a mouthful of blood before swallowing the wine down his throat. Senior brother, what's wrong with you? Chang Kiki immediately held Seek Singkong, looking concerned. He did not realize that his senior brother was injured as well. Seek Singkong's countenance turned pale. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and put up a faint smile. He said, I am fine. It's just a small injury. I just didn't expect that Jiang Tangai was so powerful. I'm sure that if I can't break through to the Heaven realm in a year, I won't be strong enough to defeat him. How powerful is Jiang Tangai? Chang Kiki asked. Seek Singkong responded, I'm a 3.5 realm fighting genius, and yet, Jiang Tangai has become a 4 realm fighting genius. I'm able to defeat him this time just because of my fundamental ability of martial arts. You know that we only fought for 7 moves, but I used all of my power in each of the moves. It was indeed so severe that, if I hadn't been cautious, he would have seized the chance and defeated me. I can't believe that Jiang Tangai is a 4 realm fighting genius. Chang Kiki said, even predecessor Liu Xu was only a 4.5 realm fighting genius when he was at the peak of his martial arts cultivation. Otherwise, he wouldn't be called the top genius of the 36 commanderies in Oman Ridge. Seek Singkong looked serious and said, with the talent that Jiang Tangai displayed, he would be able to draw with predecessor Liu Xu, and can become a 4.5 realm fighting genius if he has any fortuitous encounters. Chang Kiki asked, does it mean that none in the younger generation of the 36 commanderies in the entire Oman Ridge will be a match for Jiang Tangai 1 year from now? It's uncertain. Seek Singkong smiled, saying, there are numerous geniuses in the school of the martial market as both Liu Shuihan and Zhang Ruochen are also 4 realm fighting geniuses. I'm sure that they will be able to confront Jiang Tangai in the future. Moreover, who knows if I'll have fortuitous encounters and become one of the 4 realm fighting geniuses. Although the chances are pretty slim. Seek Singkong stood up straight and said, with Jiang Tangai's condition of being injured, I guess he will need more than 3 months to fully recover even with the help of healing pills. We will be safe along the way to Yanwu City and deal with the masters of the black market and the moon worship demonic sect. It's said that the Lady Saint of the moon worship demonic sect appeared in Yanwu City. It's a good chance for us to fight with her. I wonder if she or Jiang Tangai will be stronger. Senior brother, are you sure you still want to fight against someone else with your injuries? Chang Kiki asked with concern. My injury isn't too bad. I'll be fine with just drinking burning wine. What? Don't you believe me? I can easily grab you and run at a high speed. Fancy taking a ride? Chang Kiki shook his head and indicated that he did not believe him. Xing Kong grabbed Chang Kiki's shoulders and clash. They dashed out through the air where Chang Kiki screamed out loud again. 200 miles away, Zhang Yuochen had just broken through to the mid-stage of the Earth realm. Have you broken into a higher realm? Shen Feng, who was standing 10 steps away, looked shocked. He could not have imagined that his opponent could break through to another realm in the middle of the fight. He was positive that even if Zhang Yuochen had broken through his current realm, he was still strong enough to defeat him. Wind and fire connection. Shen Feng looked determined and was confident in his cultivation. He lowered down the red fire halberd in his hand and was ready to display his second movement. Out of expectation, he borrowed the power of 100 to fire and 100 to wind that Zhang Yuochen and Huang Yanshan had displayed respectively, and rotated his red fire halberd in the air. When the wind power and fire power blended together, it pierced toward Zhang Yuochen. Rather than escaping, Zhang Yuochen held his sword single-handedly and shook his arm. The Abyss Ancient Sword wandered on the red fire halberd and completely dissolved the power of the halberd. Then, he swung his sword onto Shen Feng's left wrist. How is it possible that he could greatly increase his speed after breaking through to another realm? Shen Feng's countenance changed immediately. If Zhang Yuochen were to chop off his left wrist, he would be easily caught. Shen Feng had no choice but to let go of the red fire halberd as he quickly retreated backward. Zhang Yuochen did not give him a chance to escape. Instead, he slashed his sword at Shen Feng's legs. PFFT. Blood splashed all over the ground. Both of Shen Feng's legs had been chopped off and he fell into the blood pit. He let out a wretched scream and still did not understand how Zhang Yuochen had become so strong in such a short period of time. At the very beginning, the reason that Shen Feng was able to suppress Zhang Yuochen was that his speed had reached 135 meters per second. While Zhang Yuochen was still at 115 meters per second. No matter how advanced and outstanding Zhang Yuochen's sword technique was, the difference in speed between them was so great that Zhang Yuochen was in no way a match for Shen Feng. But by breaking through to a high realm, Zhang Yuochen's speed had reached 140 meters per second, which was even faster than Shen Feng's. Therefore, he could easily defeat Shen Feng with his mastery of sword techniques. Shen Feng had completely lost his fighting power after his legs were chopped off. In order to maintain the vision of 100 to wind, Huang Yanshan's genuine qi had been greatly consumed. Looking at Zhang Yuochen, who had just destroyed Shen Feng, she instantly pulled back her genuine qi. Her sweat was dripping down and she had almost lost her breath. She exclaimed, Zhang Yuochen, we have to leave now. I'm afraid that it's not going to be easy for us to leave. 10 feet away in the snow, 3 human shadows flew up. They all held their long swords and attacked toward Zhang Yuochen. All 3 of them possessed a cultivation in the Earth realm and had an extremely high speed. Besides, they were only 10 feet away from Zhang Yuochen, so they were able to easily rush behind him in a second and pierce a sword through his back.